Good evening. Welcome to our Family Information Night at Cheyne Middle School, where all our future grade 5s will be coming, and we are so excited to see you all. My name is Miss Duncan. I'm the Vice Principal of Cheyne Middle School, and I'm honored to work with many staff and soon to be working with your children. Thank you.
We would like to begin by acknowledging the communities and nations whose land Cheyne Middle School sits on. The original caretakers of this land include the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. When we acknowledge the original peoples of these lands, we recognize there is a vast and rich, important story that is often ignored and misrepresented. We do the land acknowledgement as a way to offer recognition and respect as treaty people. We do it to repair our relationship with Indigenous communities and with the land, to acknowledge ongoing settler colonialism, broken treaties, and the continued occupation of Indigenous lands. We do it to eliminate complicity and to inspire ongoing action. As we reflect on the notion of indigeneity, we invite you to think deeply about the processes that led to the dispossession of Indigenous peoples on this land and how that same process displaced and forcibly removed Indigenous Africans from their lands to exploit their labor in what is currently known as Canada, as stolen people on stolen land.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan McCautry, and I'm the current guidance counselor for Cheyne Middle School. And it is a pleasure to be with you this evening. This morning, we had the opportunity to meet with each of the 3 feeder schools that feed into Cheyne Middle School. And hopefully, all 3 are represented in who's watching tonight. So we have 3 schools that feed into us, and that would be Roundtree, Edenbrook Hill, and Burnt Elm. And so we are so fortunate to have those 3 schools because they do a great job. And that's what makes Cheyne a really great place is the students and the families that are joining us. So regularly, we would have you into our building, and we'd be doing this in the gymnasium and giving you a little bit of a tour and a taste of what Cheyne Middle School is. We don't have that opportunity. So this year and this morning, we showed a little video that gave a tour of the school building and all the different learning opportunities that exist within Cheyne. And we would like to share that same video with you now. So we know that that's not as good as being there in person, but it gives you a glimpse of all the amazing learning opportunities that are within our building, and we can't wait to have you there in September. Before we continue with our presentation, I just want to let you know that we want this to be interactive. If you look on your screen, there should be a question cloud with a question mark, and you can write in your questions there that you may have as families. This morning we had a whole bunch of grade 5s ask us some great questions, and families, we would like to give you the opportunity as well. So if you have a question, type it in. And at the end of our presentation, we'll try to answer as many of those questions as we can.
Good evening again, parents and students. I am Mrs. Gray, and I will actually be the guidance counselor at Cheyne Middle School next year. In starting off and looking at kind of what we value as a school community, our vision is to create a climate that ensures students feel safe, valued, and respected. When students feel accepted and nurtured, they're better able to learn. We also are committed to ensuring that Cheyne students are positive, contributing members of the community who are self-confident, self-assured, and have the courage to make good decisions. So my role as guidance counselor is really to support students' social, emotional, and academic wellness to make sure that they're making those good decisions and that they have the resources to be their best selves while they're at Cheyne. Our school culture. Now, this is where I think Cheyne stands out kind of above many other schools. I started at Cheyne in 2012, I think it was, left for 1 year and immediately came right back. And that is because of our school culture. We have one of the friendliest and most outgoing staff makeups of all of our teachers. You will see that we are, as a teaching staff, genuinely friends. We talk to each other, we will smile at each other in the hallway, we are constantly talking to one another, and that trickles down to our students as well. In creating this kind of atmosphere, ability to learn, because they love coming to school, and you will notice that. You'll notice there is always noise happening in all of the classrooms. And again, it's not just the students, it's the teachers as well, because we really do love what we do and we love the building that we're in. Thanks.
You're up, Mr. Mattressing.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I don't see the slide change. But hi, everyone. My name is Mr. Mattressing. I am going to be the contact teacher at Cheyne Middle School for the new year. And again, I know all of the teachers here already expressed how excited we are for everybody to come into the building. And I know that even now we're having this online presentation, and it might be difficult to understand some things. So hopefully, if you have any questions, we can get to those later on. I'm really just here to speak to again, that community that Ms. Gray was talking about. So here at Cheyne Middle School, we have developed this support system for your kids, so for the students that come in. So I know regularly anyone that's had any dealings with any special education at their current school, you might have a ISSP teacher that you're familiar with, or an ESL teacher that you're familiar with. And here at Cheyne, we do have those things as well. We also have a guidance and a contact teacher, that is me, and we have a BTA that does restorative practice, and we are all working together in this support team to essentially make it so that when your kids come into our building, they're not only enjoying themselves, having fun, and sharing in those experiences, but when they do have those difficult times, when there is something that they don't understand, if they're having a situation with their academics, or a situation out on the playground with friends or their peers, that there are adults in the building that are always watching, always monitoring, and always there and available to help them. So from all of these different points that you see, so guidance, ISSP, ESL, contact, restorative practice, all of us have agreed essentially that the different teachers that are in these roles, that we all have kind of like an open door policy. So we're always there, always willing to help, always willing to be involved, and we will be keeping our eyes on your students and making sure that they are, again, having the best 3 years that they can while they're here at Cheyne.
Thank you, Mr. Mattressing. Next, we're going to have Mr. Mayberry, and he'll just be up here in a second.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So my name is Gary Mayberry, and I am one of the ISSP teachers here at Cheyne Middle School. So ISSP stands for the In-School Support Program. And the In-School Support Program at Cheyne, it's designed to support students who have both those who've been formally identified through the formal IPRC process, which is the Identification, Placement and Review Committee, as well as students who require informal supports with their learning. So students who maybe they need time to finish up a test, maybe they need to catch up, maybe some students finding one math concept a little bit difficult, and they need just that extra little bit of help to enable them to be successful. So that's our role at Cheyne. Our team is made up of teachers who work with small groups of students, generally both in the class and online. We collaborate both with classroom teachers, in-school support staff, itinerant teachers who work at the board level, peer support service personnel, and administrators to help our students be successful. And of course, and most importantly, we work with students and their families to build skills in self-advocacy, organization, areas such as self-esteem, wellness, and we also offer guidance in navigating the transition between grades and schools. And that becomes a very pivotal piece of our job later on in a couple of years' time, and it'll happen quickly when your son or daughter, when your child is going off to high school. So yeah, so we support students with a range of needs: academic, self-esteem, and wellness. We have an amazing team at Cheyne who very quickly develop a strong rapport with students. And we strive to develop not only a deep understanding of their needs, but also a very strong connection with the students, as that's super important to help our students be successful. So we also, the support team at Cheyne also supports the English language learners, or ELL, and also English as a second language. So English as a second language program is designed for students who are born outside of Canada from a non-English speaking country, students who are Canadian born but speak a second language, or students who are new to Canada and need to develop their academic and language skills. So at Cheyne, our support model is working in collaboration with students, teachers, and as I mentioned, most importantly, families, our school settlement worker and community agencies to develop programs based on each student's need. And so I feel very lucky to be part of this very strong team at Cheyne.
Thanks, Mr. Mayberry. Another big part of our school is climate and wellness, and we'll throw in there equity because they're all interrelated with each other. And one of the things I like to talk to you about is something called the 4. And the 4 is simply a term for a period that happens every day 4 of the 10-day schedule, where classrooms get together, usually in community circles, and they pause and they focus on personal wellness and school climate. Because we know, especially in a middle school, probably the biggest change the students ever going to go through in adolescence and changes as they grow up, they need that support. And wellness, climate is just as important as academics. And as you've seen, we have a support staff here that is here for your kids. And we find that we need to have student voice too. So the 4 is an opportunity where students can come together and do some learning, but also their voice is valued. And it's a great opportunity. We've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. This year, we've had a focus in looking at anti-Black racism through the book. This book is anti-racist. And there's been some great learning, not only for the kids, but for adults in the building as well. Some other supports that exist for students in middle school, and so lots of academic support. There's a program called OFIP, Ontario Focused Intervention Partnership Tutoring, and it is an after-school program that provides math and language support for grade 6 students in particular. So students work in small groups of 4 to 6 students and are recommended by their teacher for the program, which runs 1.5 hours a week. So that is free tutoring that takes place for those students that may need some reinforcement of their literacy and numeracy skills. Counting on You likewise happens in grade 7 and 8, and it is an after-school program that provides additional support in math, English, French, photography, fashion, STEM, and all students may join with guardian permission, and that program is 2.5 hours a week over and above the regular school day. And a Cheyne specific program is Spark, and Spark has been running for at least 8 or 9 years, maybe even longer now at Cheyne. And Spark is a before school program that's based on the brain science that shows that physical activity prepares the adolescent brain for learning. There's an opportunity to get help with homework, a breakfast club component, and there's a commitment for Spark that runs from September to June. And it's something where our students can have that soft entry into our building where they get to connect with their friends, they get some physical activity, get some help with their homework, get some breakfast before they learn. And so Spark is a wonderful in-school program that we have as well. I'm going to introduce Mr. Shabazz, who is our school principal next.
Thank you, Mr. McCautry. First off, parents, students, community members, welcome to Cheyne. A little sad, I would have loved to have met all of you in person and have you in the gym and have this conversation, but we are in this space that we are right now. We will make the best of this space that we can right now. I am extremely excited to be welcoming all of your children to our school next year, and I'm humbled and honored that you're giving us that opportunity to take care of and to care for your students. I understand transitions from elementary school to middle school and then middle school to high school are nerve-wracking. Students are going through different sorts of different feelings of anxiety and nervousness. As are parents, I myself, my own child is about to transition to university, and that adds a different level of sort of nerves that I start kind of feeling myself. So I want to thank you again for trusting us to take care of your children as they enter our school year. I want to let you know that we honestly have probably the strongest group of staff anywhere in the board, and I'm extremely proud of every single one of our teachers. Just by you seeing it tonight at 6:30 on a Wednesday night, after a full long day of online teaching, because all of our teachers, Ms. Gray, Mr. Mattersing, Mr. Maybury, Mr. McCautry, have classes that they were working with earlier today, and they were doing presentations earlier today. They've all made that time to come to be here with you, to show the importance that it is to show that support that we have of our students. So this is just a small sample of that amazing community that we've created at this school, the amazing staff that are available here at the school to support your children in whatever way they require support so that they can truly have the best 3 years, as Mr. Mattersing said, of their educational careers while they're here with us at Cheyne. My framing is always very similar. Whenever I meet staff, whenever I have new staff come join us, whenever I meet with sort of community members, I always employ a sort of a three-part lens when decision making when it comes to school. And I think it's important that you hear a little bit from me in regards to that, because you don't know Cheyne, you don't know us. Perhaps you've had other children that have come through, so you've gotten to know us a little bit. Perhaps you haven't, perhaps you've heard good things, perhaps you've heard other things. So I just wanted to let you know that we are all here to support you, and we're here for our kids. Whenever we're making any decisions, safety trumps everything else, right? So safety is Is the school building safe for our kids? Are the students safe in the building? What systems have we put in place to ensure their physical, but not only their physical, but their social, emotional, and mental wellness and safety, right? So things like, our focus on anti-Black racism, that's a focus rooted in safety, because our students need to feel safe when they're in that building, and they need to be in an environment that allows them to prosper, right? So that's the number one sort of lens I use whenever making any decisions, is that are our decisions, is our facility, is our community safe? Once safety is kind of maintained, then we look at wellness, right? Are our students happy? And if not, what can we do to put the right things in place to sort of build that sense of happiness, of comfort, of the sense of belonging within the building here? Which is why the collective wisdom of our amazing staff come together as that Cheyne support team to put the right things in place so that we can truly work with our students who may be having a bit of a rough patch, who may be having a challenging time, who may be trying to grapple with different decisions, because the adolescent years are challenging years, right? We have 11 years, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds in our building. And sometimes with those years come a little bit of challenges, a little bit of unknowns. So that amazing support staff that we've put together that works as a huge sort of wraparound service for your children is here to ensure that we can focus on their wellness and on their happiness. And once safety is taken care of, and once the wellness and happiness components are taken care of, then we can focus on the learning, right, and the curriculum and the academics. And that is a vital component of our system here at Cheyne. But we need to ensure that the safety and the wellness piece comes first. And that is our philosophy. That is my philosophy, being a middle school principal. I'm extremely excited to have all of our students join us. I know you have that option of perhaps choosing online learning next year, because that is, an option that's out there for you. And if you need to, for whatever reason, be it for health reasons, be it for other reasons, requests for your child to go online, that's fine. We will make it work, and we will put the right things in place for that. But if at all possible, I would strongly encourage you to send your children into the building to learn alongside their peers. Things like our woodshop programs, our gym programs, our music programs, our dance, drama, like all of that fun stuff that happens in a school, that collaborative learning that happens in math class and science labs and language learning, the literacy circles that we do, the spaces like the library, and even the outdoor classrooms, recess, soccer games, cricket games, playing tag. That can't happen in an online world in the same way, right? So I think, if at all possible, I would strongly encourage you to sign up for in-school, in-person learning for next year, especially considering that things are on the right path right now, and so that we can get to know all of your students, let to know all of your children, and truly create that fun, exciting atmosphere for our students. And in the end, what I really want to kind of wrap up with before we go to some questions and answers is my job is to serve our community. Our community meaning our students, our staff, and you, our parents. So if you ever require anything from the school, if you ever require a conversation or supports or connections with community agencies or memberships, or just an opportunity to share thoughts, please, please, please. Our doors are always open. Our emails are always open. Our phones are always available. Do not hesitate at all to reach out. We are here to work alongside you, to work with you, to learn from you, so that we can best support your children. You know them better than anyone else knows them, and we want to work with you so that we can provide the best opportunities for success for all of your children. So I'm going to give it over to Mr. McCautry right now, and if there are questions, we will do our best to answer as a team. We may not have all the answers, but we will write down anything we can't respond to right now, and hopefully get back to you.
Yes, and we have quite a few questions coming in, and we wanted to leave a lot of time for this and not just present, because it's important that you have your questions answered. And the first question is, when does the school start and end?
Great question. So so our school day officially starts at 9 a.m. However, we are a middle school. So a middle school model is different than an elementary school. We have 5 1-hour long periods, so 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. We have a lunch block, which is 1 hour, and in that lunch block, students get to eat for about half of it and play for about half of it. And then we have our afternoon, which is a 2-hour block of, a 1 hour period and another hour period. There is no homeroom period. There is no soft entry. So the first bell goes at 8:50. Parents and students, you really do need to be here for 8:50 for that entry, because at 9 o'clock, period 1 starts. In period 1, depending on the day of the schedule, you may be starting in music, you may be starting in French, you may be starting in math, you may be starting in gym, you may be starting in visual arts or in language arts or science. So if you're late even a couple minutes, you could be missing a good chunk of instruction because it's a little bit of a different model than it is in elementary school. We start with Rotary in grade 6, where kids go right into it at 9 o'clock based on whatever subject area they have. And then in grade 7, there's more Rotary, and then grade 8, even more Rotary. But those are school hours, 9 to 3 with an hour-long lunch in the middle. But again, try to be here for 8:50.
So the next question was, is the counselor student to student, or is it one counselor for the whole class? And I'll answer that one as the guidance counselor. So in Peel is really unique where not every school board has guidance counselors for the intermediate years. And so we are fortunate that Peel has allocated that guidance counselors be in elementary schools with schools that have, technically it's for grade 7 and 8, but we still serve our grade 6 students without a doubt. And so the way it works, Miss Gray will be the main guidance counselor next year, but there will be some other staff that have a little bit of guidance and you may work with as well. And as you've seen, really, it's about finding the adult that you can connect with, because there's many, many staff that are not on this call tonight, whether it's educational assistants or other support staff that are in our school that are there to work with you and help with you. And so I like to say almost all of us are like guidance counselors. It's not just the actual position, because you'll always find somebody friendly to talk to and help you through whatever problem you're having. We had a question is, how do you apply for flex boundary?
So flex boundary to come to us is different than flex boundary to leave us. So either way, you automatically belong to your home school, and that is based on your address. So if your home school currently is Burnt Elm, Edenbrook, or Roundtree, you are coming to Cheyne. That is your home school. If you want to leave Cheyne and go to a different school, there is a process. It's a flex boundary form. It starts at the home school. I have to first, so if you imagine if you wanted to leave Cheyne to go to a different school because of babysitting issues or whatever it may be, process starts with me. You need to have a conversation with the principal, explaining why you don't want to come to that school, why you like to go to a different school. After that conversation, I can either approve it or deny it. Once I approve it, that doesn't mean that it's happening for sure. That means then the home school needs to have the school you want to go to needs to have space to accept you. So their principal then needs to meet with you and accept you, right? So it's a 2-step process. First, your home school gives permission for you to try to get to another school based on the criteria that you have demonstrated. And then the school you want to go to needs to have space for you to accept you. So it's a 2-step process.
Yeah, just a question clarifying whether it's in person and online, again, just wanting some clarification for that.
Yeah, so as far as we are planning, and as far as I know, we will be opening in person in September, right? That is what everything is leading towards right now. That is what all the information I have received from the board, and I believe the board has received from the ministry. Parents, you were sent an email a few weeks ago by the board letting you know that you will have the chance to choose online or in-school learning in the summer months. Now, if you choose in-school learning, you're with us. We're going to have a fantastic time, and we're going to learn. We're going to have fun. If you choose online learning, you're still with us. You're still assigned to Cheyne based on the numbers of students that I have opting to go to online. I will reorganize within the building and create a teacher or a classroom or two to be the online teachers. If I don't have enough teachers, if I don't have enough students at Cheyne, wanting to go online, then you may be mixed up with students from other schools to create an online classroom. So it's all going to be based on numbers. Once you opt for online learning or for in-school learning, there is no going back, right? You are in that role for, Miss Duncan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have one opportunity at the end of term 1, so that's in February, to make a different choice, right? But once you make that decision in July, August, that decision is that decision until all the way until the end of term 1, which is normally first week of February. And then at that time, you'll have an opportunity to make a choice and a change at that time. But again, my strong recommendation, encouragement, if at all possible, send your children to school, especially if sort of most of the staff, if not all the staff, will be vaccinated by that time across the board, because we've already been getting our vaccinations. Most of our area, Brampton, has been getting their vaccinations, and we're going down that path. Now students between the ages of 12 and 18 can also get their vaccination. So I do know for a fact that many of our 12 and 13-year-olds are getting vaccinated right now, so our grade 7s and 8s, right? So things are looking up, and I think a return after a year and a half, 2 years of online learning for some students, especially for their wellness, their social emotional wellness, I would recommend coming back into the building. However, you know your family's best, you know your situation best, you know your needs best. So if you opt to stay online, there is an option for that.
Yeah, and a question, just if you are online, will it be Google Classroom or Google Meet? And yes, between that and Brightspace, which is another platform that some classrooms use, but the learning models, online models that you've been using this year in your feeder school would likely continue. Does Cheyne provide help for social skills? Example, talking to people. Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So yes, we do. So as Mr. McCautry was saying, Miss Gray is going to be our main guidance counselor next year. We also have 2 other phenomenal guidance counselors that are working alongside Miss Gray. One of those guidance counselors' specific role will be supporting social skills development, and will be working with students in small groups multiple times a week, specifically in social skills, social scripts, social stories, because we know that some students with specific needs require that support. So that's a system that we're putting into place specifically for that need. But even if that need is not being met, that's a conversation that you definitely need to have with us and your classroom teacher, because Mr. Maybury and Ms. Gray and Mr. Mattressing and the rest of our support team will definitely put things into place to ensure that if a child needs social skill support, we will provide social skill support. But there is a specific plan in place right now for just that reason.
Okay, another good question. How are we going to find out who our teacher is?
That's a great question, and that was my little note for how I was going to wrap up tonight, but I guess I can say that earlier. Excuse me. So once we get all of our numbers, right, and when I mean numbers, I mean parents opting for in-school and online, right? That's going to happen sometime in the summer. Once we have all those numbers, parents, then I will know exactly how many staff members I can keep in the building, how many staff members will need to be assigned to work online, and based on that, what my classroom allocations will look like. Currently, I'm sitting at having 10 grade 6 homeroom teachers in the building if all of my grade 6s come to the building, which is fantastic, right? That may change, right? I may need to assign a teacher to work as an online teacher based on those numbers. Once I finalize everything, so I'm looking probably in early August, mid-August, based on when those survey results come back, we will finalize class lists. You will receive an email probably the second last week of August. In that email will be everything. Will be your child's classroom teacher, your child's sort of classroom code, first day routines, what to expect, sort of lunch plans, entry and exit dismissal routines, kiss and ride routines, busing plans, everything you need to know that we weren't able to share in sort of beforehand because of how this year's rolling out. You will have one, it'll be a pretty dense, pretty thorough email, so I apologize about the length of that, but that one email will give you all that information. So expect an email towards the end of August that'll answer all those questions, including what that first day of school looks like.
Okay, lots of questions. Okay, up next, just give me a chance, don't want to miss any of them.
Of course.
Okay, so is there any programs available during school or lunch break? So I assume that's asking about clubs and activities and such, and I'll answer that to give Mr. Shabazz a break from talking so much.
Thanks, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah. So we do have lots, and Miss Gray was mentioning this, getting involved, really tons of clubs, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's sports or intramurals. You don't have to be a superstar in sports. There's opportunity, because we just love when kids get involved and finding something that they're passionate about, Lego robotics, whatever it may be. And so there is lots of opportunity. And I will say, even though we've been online this year, we've had art clubs still running. We've had different games clubs running, even in the midst of the pandemic, even online. So I know that our staff, in the midst of doing it online, are going to be even more dedicated to doing that when we're back in person. And so you'll find out all the information. Cheyne does a really good job at getting information out. They usually use a blog spot to post all the announcements. So where you go to go to different clubs and activities, or if you're signing up to try out for a sports team. I'll answer the next one. Does Cheyne have a cafeteria or any types of, well, Mr. Shabazz, you can answer this, any opportunities for students to purchase lunch? And so there is no cafeteria. You eat in your classroom. However.
Thanks, Mr. McCautry. So Ms. Vastokis is our amazing office manager, and you will get to know her over the next 3 years, because there's a good chance, she'll be answering the phone or connecting with your students and helping them out. Ms. Vastokis has been phenomenal in organizing hot lunch programs or lunch programs over the past couple of years. This year we haven't had it, but last year we had sub days, pizza days, bagel days, soup days, wrap days, and everything else. So almost every day of the week, at least 4 to 5 days a week, there was a lunch program option available to students. Now, all of these options were pre-ordered using School Cash Online. So, and they were delivered to the classrooms. It's very sort of seamless and clean and organized. So that's the lunch program that's available to students from the school. And again, it is a bit of a fundraiser, and all the money raised goes right back towards programming within the building. So that's awesome. We do strongly encourage, parents to sign up for that if they so choose to. We also have a tuck shop, and one of our classrooms runs that tuck shop, and that tuck shop is not open all the time. It is open some days a week. It runs at lunchtime, and that's where kids can get little snacks. I know, sometimes bags of chips, sometimes cookies, sometimes a couple little hot meal things, or just ice cream sandwiches in the summer months. Sometimes freezies. It's one of our special education classes that runs that for the school, right? And that happens every so often. None of these programs though will be up and running the first week of September, right? So they're all going to take a couple weeks to get up and running. So you will need to bring lunch, like a good lunch, for yourselves. Again, peanut nut aware, because we do have students with allergies, every day for at least the first few weeks until we can get things organized. Normally things start coming up and running towards the end of September.
Okay. And yeah, we had a question just again about lockers, and do you get to choose who you share a locker with?
So lockers, there's not enough lockers for every student to have their own, especially in grade 6. Grade 6s will be sharing lockers. You will be sharing your locker with somebody inside your own classroom. If you end up with a friend inside your classroom and you go to your classroom teacher and request to share lockers together, that classroom teacher may allow that to happen. They may not, because they may have their own sort of system in place. I leave that up to the classroom teacher's discretion on how they assign locker partnerships, because they may have a different criteria in place. But most likely, if you and your best friend are in the same class, you want to share a locker, just talk to your classroom teacher, and let's see where that goes. But that's normally how it works.
Okay, so I'll answer this one. We've had a couple questions on what the process is for registering or signing up or transferring. That happens just automatically. And so if you are a student that is in our boundary, you'll automatically get transferred over to our school. Now, like every school year, that first week or so of school, you'll get some confirmation sheets and forms just to make sure that your contact information is accurate and correct with cell phones and emergency contact numbers and all those things. How many total number of students per class is the next question.
Yeah, so right now, on average, we're allocated around 25, right? Give or take. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but that's the number that we are allocated to start at for next year.
Yeah, so there's a question, do you have a room for reading? Yeah, we have a library, a learning commons. It's amazing space. And again, that's going to be another place where there's going to be amazing support staff supporting in there. And so it is it was renovated, what was it, a couple years ago, fully renovated. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've updated it yearly, it seems, with something new in it. There is a lab that is a part of the library learning commons that you didn't see on the tour, but it's a great collaborative space where it's not just sitting in front of a Chromebook or a computer. It's designed for interacting with your peers in the classroom. How many breaks do we get? Is the next one.
You're in middle school, there are no breaks. No, I'm just joking. So students need movement breaks. They need a little bit of break here and there for sure, without a doubt. That's again at the discretion of the classroom teacher, right? If you have a drama dance class you're starting off with, you're going to get natural breaks within that period. If you have gym class, that's a full movement, sort of whole period, 60 minutes devoted to movement. Some classes are more conducive to movement, other classes maybe not so much, right? But again, the staff that we have, the team that we put together, are all very, very responsive to the needs of their students. So if your child requires a movement break, if your child requires, an opportunity to get up and stretch, that is allowed and that is valued and that is more than okay. And if a child needs it, we will make space for it. A lot of our classes love to spend a little bit of time outside. Cheyne has just installed its 5th outdoor classroom. So we have 5 outdoor classroom spaces that classrooms utilize at all the time to go outside and, learn outside in fresh air, underneath the trees, underneath the sunlight. That's important. In terms of scheduled breaks, there's one. It's a lunch hour. Half an hour of it is, give or take, 20, 25 minutes, half an hour devoted to eating, and the other half devoted to outside play. But we don't follow a nutrition break schedule at the middle school level. So there's one formal hour-long break, half eating, half to play outside. But again, teachers do provide periodic breaks throughout the day. And with that, support team, that's a 15+ member team that are always wandering the building and always available for students. They will always be there if a child needs a walk, shooting some basketballs, getting some fresh air, whatever it may be, we're always here to support that.
And the next question was just signing up for Spark or any of the tutoring. And so that information would come in the fall whenever it does become available. Communication will be sent home. You'll be sure to find out about it from classroom teachers and also from the school. In terms of sports that are available, though, almost anything that you can think of, there is sports. There's junior level sports, which is grade 6 teams. So whether it's basketball or volleyball, Mr. Mattressing was gloating this morning that we are now the defending all Peel basketball champions 3 years in a row, because the league hasn't run for the past 2 years. And so we have a strong history of sports. But as I said earlier, even if you're not great at sports, we want to encourage everyone to get involved and play an intramural and just learn something new. So cricket, Mr. Mayberry, who you met earlier, he's our futsal coach, and he'll always be willing to be running those clubs of futsal and support our soccer teams, because I know soccer may be one of the popular sports of people on this call. Okay, yeah, do we have a homeroom teacher? Yes, and so, and this is kind of combining some of the questions that I've seen in terms of courses and such. As a grade 6 student, we're going to ease your transition into middle school. That's important. And so junior level courses go from grade 4 to grade 6. And so you will have a couple of teachers in grade 6, but most of them will be teaching the subject areas to you. As you grow older and go into grade 7, into the intermediate level in grade 8, you'll have more and more Rotary and more different teachers. Okay, and somebody just asked, can you send this presentation to parents? Yeah, when we get the video, it will download, and we will share this with the feeder schools to share with you parents. Okay, if you have problems concentrating, how would Cheyne help with that? Great question. And you met some of the support staff here today. So whether it's Mr. Mattressing, the contact teacher, or Mrs. Gray, but I'm just going to say even our classroom teachers, they're used to the students having difficulty concentrating. You guys are still kids. Adults have a hard time sitting in front of a computer screen or in a classroom. And so movement, different engaging activities, these are all part of the things that happen within our building every day. And if you need something, just tell us. Tell us, hey, I need this. And you'll find an adult that will support you with that. Mr. Shabazz, here's a question about EQAO. So in grade 6, apart from EQAO, are there any main exams?
No, there are not any main exams apart from EQAO. And again, EQAO has been canceled for the last number of years, so I'm not sure what that will look like even for next year. But no, there are no standardized tests. The only standardized tests that happen in Peel, again, as far as I know, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe are in grade 4, you do the CAT. And Mr. Mabry, correct me if I'm incorrect. In grade 6, you do EQAO. And then in grade 10, you do the OSSLT. And in grade 9, you also do EQAO math, right? And out of all those tests, the only one that really counts is your grade 10 literacy test. Everything else is data collection, which is fantastic. The school can drive some data collection, but also the parents can drive some data collection in regards to different benchmarks. The grade 4 CCAT test does sometimes open up some different doors and different pathways for you, but that happens in grade 4. But the grade 6 EQAO test and the grade 9 EQAO test are strictly data collection pieces. They don't impact report cards, but they're good to see sort of standardized in a standardized manner where students are in relation to the province. It's the grade 10 OSSLT. That's a test that is a requirement for graduation. But again, even if you don't do very well in that grade 10 OSSLT, you have an opportunity to rewrite it. And even then, you still have the opportunity to do a course that helps you pass that at the end. The focus that I always have in our school is that our focus is going to be on student wellness, on student happiness, and student learning, right? We are focused on truly what the learning, like assessment for learning. So the idea that all the assessments, all the data gathering, all the sort of work that the students are doing, they're doing it so that they can learn more and they can learn more and they can go deeper with their learning and deeper with their learning. It isn't for the mark, but rather it's for the learning. The mark is something that is necessary because we are reporting and we will give them a mark at the end of the year. But the focus is on the learning of the content, the learning of the systems, the learning of the process, not the mark itself, right? So that really is a strong focus because I want to ensure that all of our students leave here confident, right? Because we only have them for 3 years. And these 3 years, again, are a very important set of 3 years for our students' lives. And I need them to leave here at the end of grade 8 feeling confident in themselves, feeling confident in their abilities, understanding that they can do the work that they learned, that they grew, that they persevered, that they understood content. And that's the true focus of sort of learning and schooling. So that's what we really focus on. So in regards to the examinations, middle school does not have examinations the way high schools have examinations. There are no end of year exams. It is still an elementary model. We are still officially a part of the elementary panel. And we follow the elementary curriculum, and there are no examinations in the elementary curriculum.
Just a question on how school busing works.
I'm going to give that to Ms. Duncan. Ms. Duncan is our vice principal. Ms. Duncan has a number of things that are underneath her sort of a purview of control, and transportation is one of those really big areas. So I'm going to let Ms. Duncan answer this one.
Sure. So with busing, if you are so many kilometers away, and that's how it works, you are granted busing. So there's regular busing. And then also if you're in, we have some contained classes at our school. We have 4 of those. If you're part of that, then you are automatically giving busing. So if you have more questions about that, we can answer it. So if you're more than 2 kilometers away from Cheyne, and then they automatically, and it's through Stop R, you're granted busing. But if you're under the 2 kilometers, then you walk to school. And then in the very rare circumstances, not this year because of COVID, you are granted something called courtesy busing. But that means if you have a severe medical condition or something out of your control with a medical doctor's note, then you would get busing. So I hope that answered a little bit of your questions. And if you have more questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
And parents, just in the comment section, I put the website link, stopr.ca. In there, you can put in your address and Cheyne Middle School for next year, and it will tell you whether you're eligible or not.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Ms. Duncan. And then if your child is eligible for busing, like check it the week before, right? And so it'll tell you exactly sort of time and all that. And then that first day of school, Ms. Duncan and some members of the support team will make sure all students get their bus cards with the right information, the pickup and drop off times and all that sort of detailed important information.
It's a question about school safety. How secure is the school building to protect our kids from an intruder? I mean, does the school building have its own CCTV installed?
Great question. The school does not have CCTV installed. Again, elementary schools in Peel do not have CCTV cameras. We have an entry camera. So there is one entry camera that is being recorded as people ring the bell to enter the building. All doors of the school remain locked at all times. The only door that is open is the front door, and that is a part of a requirement that was passed a couple of years ago by the Ministry of Education. So the only one door remains open during school hours. Only during entry and dismissal do other school doors ever remain open. I myself, as you've heard, patrol the building almost all the time. So do the support staff, so do our custodial staff. There is a very strict procedure in place in regards to anyone who's in the building who is not a staff member needs to wear a visible tag and sign in at the office demonstrating who they are. If they are not walking around with that, we are made aware immediately, and I interact with them and figure out what is happening in that situation. As I've said, and I'll say it again, is that my #1 priority, bar none, is your child's safety. That trumps everything else, right? And I'm talking about site safety, site security, but things like outside on the fields, is it safe? Well, what about my sprinkler system? Are the heads popping out? Is anyone going to be tripping and falling? What about the ice outside and the salt outside? Anaphylactic reactions. Do we have the right things in place? Are students bringing peanuts when they shouldn't be bringing peanuts? Like all that sort of stuff, that all falls underneath student and children safety. You are trusting us, parents, with your most precious item, your child. Right, and it's you're trusting me as a principal and our team to ensure that you send them to us in a healthy, safe manner, and I return them to you in that exact same healthy, safe manner. Maybe a little happier and a little bit more knowledgeable, but that's my goal, right? And if there are gaps, I want to hear what those gaps are. If you see something happening out in the fields or in the community or in my school building that you don't like, please let me know immediately and I will rectify to the best of my ability.
Just a question saying that under 12, there still is no vaccine approval. So is it right to have school learning for grade 6?
That's a question that's not for me to answer. That's a question for Peel Public Health, for our medical health professionals, for our doctors to answer. I'm not a medical health professional. I would never say that I am. Like that, in that same vein, kindergarten to grade 5 students, like what are we going to do with them as well, right? So I think the magic number they say is 70% of the population being vaccinated will lead towards herd immunity. But again, this is just me from reading different articles and documents. You need to do what you feel the most comfortable with. Right? If you don't feel comfortable sending in your 11-year-old to the building, that's your decision, right? And the Ministry of Education, the Minister of Education has allowed that, has provided that opportunity for you to learn, for your child to learn from home. And if that's the decision you make, I need to respect your decision. And we will do our best to provide online learning for that child with an online teacher. I don't have an answer to is it safe or is it not safe, because nobody has that answer. I can only follow the guidance of Peel Public Health and of the scientists at the sort of science table.
So just gonna say we sort of allocated the hour for this, and we're almost up at that. But we will answer a couple more. Any questions that we don't get to that haven't already been answered, we will email them out into the feeder schools so they can share that. Will we get ID cards? Was the next question.
So after we take our class photos, automatically generated from those class photos are cards that we can be used as library cards and ID cards. So that happens after class photos. Class photos normally don't happen until about October.
If we don't have a vaccine, can we still go to school?
I think so. Yeah. I don't foresee them saying that a vaccination is a requirement to attend school. Again, I can't speak in absolutes, but as far as I've heard, I don't believe that'll be the case at all. Again, if your family feels comfortable with you coming to school, I would love to have you in the building. And for example, this year we put every process and procedure into place that was required from us and more. Right. Again, as I said, safety trumps everything else. So all of our classrooms in the building this year had less than 15 students. Right. We moved staff around. This amazing group of staff you see here and more that are support staff. They were all pulled out of support roles this year to become classroom teachers so that we can keep our classroom numbers low, because that was what was needed at that time. Right. So based on what is needed next year and based on what the criteria is at Peel Public Health and the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education need us to do, I'll make sure that we go above and beyond the minimum requirements to ensure your children's safety.
Yeah, a great question. Is there IEP help? And Mr. Mayberry, who is on, he's one of our in-school support teachers that definitely, without a doubt, IEPs are valued at Cheyne, and there's lots of support, whether it be academic or emotional supports to help you with that. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Mayberry, if you're still on the call?
Yeah, just absolutely. There's support for students with an IEP, and in fact, we have students at Cheyne who are on IEP for a spectrum of reasons, and for some students that might be academic reasons, and for other students it might be for medical reasons. So we support all students. But beyond that, I think at Cheyne we have a real culture of supporting students anytime that they need help, and whether that be academic or emotional well-being. And the ISSP room, the in-school support program room at Cheyne, we have an open door policy. Students are very welcome to come in at any time to ask questions, have a different learning space, whether it's a quieter learning space or whether it's a learning space where there's just resources that they need. And for some kids, it's an area that some students really gravitate towards. So absolutely, there's a lot of supports for students with an IEP and also without an IEP as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, a couple of quick questions. Will there be uniforms? No, we don't have school uniforms at Cheyne. Does Cheyne have AC? There are some spaces in Cheyne that have AC. The Library Learning Commons is one of them. And when we have some of those really hot days, we make sure that some classes can cycle through some of those cooler spaces in the school. Are there any basketball net or soccer nets? Well, yeah, Mr. Mayberry made sure we got our futsal indoor soccer nets as well. So we're well equipped for basketball and soccer nets. Mr. Chavaz just had basketball nets installed outside this past year. because we know that's an activity lots of students love to do. Do you have to pay for Breakfast Club or Spark Club? No, those programs are not pay use. Who is the vice principal? Well, you met her. I'm going to put her face up again. This is the vice principal. This is Miss Duncan. Okay. And will COVID protocols still be in place? Well, again, I think Mr. Shabazz has answered that. As of right now, we have to wait and see what Peel Public Health recommends for when we go back to school in September. And then, but here's a question: how often is everything cleaned, especially the most touched areas?
So this year, our staff was cleaning high touch areas every 30 minutes minimum, right? So that was this year. All doorknobs, all door handles, all washroom stalls, any urinals, all that sort of stuff. They were constantly making circles. Mr. Miraj, who you'll get to know, is our head custodian. He is a fantastic individual, a very, very, very hard worker. Him, Mr. Greco, I know her first name, I can't remember her last name right now, but we have a great team, a great custodial team that they ensure that the school is always kept extremely clean, extremely well sanitized. And they're always working on ensuring that all high touch areas, all school areas, everything is as safe and clean as possible. Cheyne also has what's called a medically fragile DD program. Not many of you are aware of that. It's a very specialized program. It's a classroom in our building that has students that has severe medical needs. With that comes extra allocation, but also extra hypervigilance of ensuring that our school is always safe and secure for all. Right, so we need to ensure that we keep all of our students safe, and having that classroom allows me to have a little bit of extra funding, a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra space to ensure that we really do spend a lot of time keeping our school safe. Parents, I encourage you, once COVID allows us to, is in August, I'm thinking of opening up the school perhaps during that last week of August before even our teachers come into the building, to allow grade 5 parents who may be a little apprehensive to come in and see the building, to come in and see the school, to come in and feel the environment themselves, and to have a conversation with myself and Ms. Duncan, because I do 100% understand the nerves. You're sending your children who've been sitting at home for 1.5 to 2 years because of COVID, right? And you've had that sort of that apprehension and that fear of COVID. And now all of a sudden they're going back to a place that you don't know, to people you don't know, to a school that may be not in your neighborhood. It may be a good 20, 30-minute walk from home. I get all of that. I understand all of that. I want to do whatever I can to sort of eliminate or alleviate some of those stressors as much as possible. So when we begin sending those emails out in August, we'll ask you to sign up if you want to come in small groups to kind of have a tour of the building. Bring your children in. They can come with you as well. It'll be kind of an open forum, but again, all based on what Peel Public Health allows me to do at that time.
A couple of just quick questions to get through. I had a question about French immersion. No, Cheyne is not a French immersion school. So if you are currently in French immersion, your school is Sir William Gage Public School, and you would be transferred over to Sir William Gage. However, some students who are in grade 6 decide they want to start taking extended French, which begins in grade 7. And the school that you would apply to go to then in about January of next year is BD Fleming. That's the extended French program. So we're not French immersion at Cheyne, we're core French. Do we have to bring our own computer to class, or can we bring, I guess just a question about devices.
So, normally Cheyne has at least 10 to 15 devices shared amongst the 2 classrooms, Chromebooks and iPads. However, we've given all of our devices out to students who are learning in the online world. I'm hoping we get them all back. And if we do, we'll have 10 to 15 per classroom. If not, we may have a little less to start, but no, students, you don't need to bring your own at all. If you need a device, we'll find you a device. We have enough sources of funds, we have enough staff, we have enough resources to be able to provide you with whatever you need to be successful. So Parents, I know some of your students, maybe some of your children may start asking you, I need a phone, I need a device, I need an iPad, I need a Chromebook. They don't need any of that at all. We have more than enough technology to support our students who require technology in the building. If you want to buy for them, that's fine. However, bringing it to school with the hustle and bustle of walking back, walking forth, recess and gym and lunch and all that sort of stuff, things get lost, stolen, broken. I wouldn't want that to happen. So I'd encourage them to keep their expensive pieces of technology at home.
Okay. There are some questions that we'll probably have to email to our feeder schools, as we didn't get a chance to answer all of them. I did one that I just saw that I wanted to talk about. It says, are you an inclusive school, and how do you take bullying? And I can say from experience, by not from myself, but seeing how staff and how the administration, bullying is something that gets dealt with. Are we going to say that bullying never happens in a middle school? No, that would be not truthful. But when it does happen, we see action. And I've seen lots of strong partnerships between families and the school. My best piece of advice is tell somebody. Find that trusted adult that you make a connection with. Tell them. They will do something. And if they don't, find somebody else in the building. Call Mr. Shabazz. Call Miss Duncan. They're very good at getting back to you in dealing with any situation that's going on, because it's all about student safety and wellness, right? That's what matters to us. And so please, please, please make sure that you reach out to the staff and the admin if there's any issues. So that being said, thank you so much. I think we had a great turnout at the height, about 85 different callers on here. So thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us and being on a screen yet once again. So I'll just hand over to Mr. Shabazz to close off for the evening.
First, I want to thank our staff for being here tonight, and I really want to thank Mr. McCautry. Mr. McCautry has worked so extremely hard and has been there for students at Cheyne, for the past 12, 13 years, and is an asset to the Cheyne community and the Cheyne team. And the work that he does to bring everyone together in an inclusive environment is so greatly appreciated. So thank you, Mr. McCautry, for all of your hard work, especially in tonight and putting this together for us. Students, parents, Mr. McCautry said it, safety, wellness, and learning. That's how I frame everything within the building. We are a middle school. Will some of us make mistakes? Will students make mistakes? Yes, right? It happens, right? But we are an opportunity and a space to learn from our mistakes, to own our mistakes, and to move forward from them, right? So I want you to give us that opportunity to support your students, support your children, to be there for your children, to help them grow, to help them become the most confident versions of themselves, and for allow them to truly find success, whatever that success may look like. This is a spot, a place full of amazing staff, full of amazing people, full of amazing opportunities for your child. They can learn the arts, they can learn music, they can learn drama, dance, they can learn phys ed, they can learn wood shop, they can learn outdoor education, they can be themselves, and we will support every student as they develop and become comfortable in their own skin. So I want to thank you again for being here with us tonight. As Mr. McCautry stated, we are honestly always open and available for you. Feel free to email the school, cheyne.ms@plsb.com. That email goes directly to Ms. Duncan and myself and our office staff. So one of us will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. So again, that's cheyne.ms@plsb.com. That's our school email address. Do not hesitate at all to call that. You can also call the school number, but no one's in the office, so it may take a little bit of time to get back to you. But thank you again for spending the night with us. And I look forward to meeting each and every one of your children, getting to know their names, getting to know their likes, their dislikes, and who they are as individual young adults as they navigate the next 3 years here at Cheyne. Thank you.